Welcome back. It's 22 minutes after 4 o'clock. Now, scholar transport is becoming a challenge for communities in several provinces. Since the beginning of the year, there have been several accidents involving scholar transport in Limpopo, Northwest, Gauteng and Mpumalanga. These incidents have brought the spotlight on how the government has been coordinating the sector. In the Eastern Cape, civil society organization Kula Community Development Project wants the court to compel the government to provide scholar transport for thousands of children. Joining us is Cameron McConnachie, Legal Resources Centre from the Legal Resources Centre. Thank you so much for joining us, Cameron. Again, country in grief, again, a dark period, an unnecessary and unfounded accident where children have lost their lives again.
Yeah, we send out our condolences. We're obviously very saddened by recent events.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about those events to know exactly where blame lies, etc. So, on the one hand, you encourage that scholar transport is being provided, but you just worry that maybe all the correct processes aren't being implemented, and all the role players aren't playing their part to ensure that that it's safe travel for students.
So when we're looking at the scholar, just the policy on transport for scholars as well, where are we failing short? Where are we failing? Where are we falling short? Why are we still finding such incidents going on a lot? And again, it's always a case of overcrowding, of reckless driving, never a case where it is just purely an accident.
Well, I do think that, some blame, we're not a very good country of drivers. We don't have good road safety. We have a very high accident rate. So, scholar transport accidents may just be a reflection of the high, the bad road use. And I think that a lot of the, we really need to be looking at the Department of Transport and, how much policing of roads are they doing? Are there enough checks of scholar transport vehicles and checking licenses and road safety, etc. So, that's the one side of it. But, then there's the other side, which is there's, hundreds of thousands of children that have applied for and qualify for scholar transport that are not being transported at all. And often they're walking long distances, or they are finding a way to pay for private transport. And then it's not state subsidized transport, but it's, overloading in, the back of a bakkie, because that's the only sort of transport that the family can afford to get their children to school. So, yeah, there are multiple angles to the problem. But, yeah, I would say that the underfunding of the program is a major one, coupled with bad planning. From a policy perspective, there is a national policy which was adopted or published in 2015. But it is just a policy, and then it leaves it to the provinces to develop their own policies. And there's not a lot of uniformity amongst the provinces. And there's a lot of gaping holes in those policies. Some say absolutely nothing about the timeframes for applying for and being told about scholar transport. Others say, absolutely nothing about transporting children with special needs or disabilities. So there's not a lot of, there's not uniformity, and you can't have, each province will have its own idiosyncrasies, which may need to have some deviations, but there are some very glaring, large-scale deficiencies in both the national policy as well as the various provincial policies.
Where the low-hanging fruit, Cameron, when you speak about things like checks and balances for road safety, checking scholar transport as well, the things that can be done quite easily and should be done quite frequently as well, where are those low-hanging fruit, and do you see that implementation being followed through there?
So I'm really not an expert on transport. I think the low-hanging fruits would probably need to speak to someone in the Department of Transport and how to improve road safety. I think the low-hanging fruit from a legal or a policy perspective is there needs to be an upgrading of our national policy to a set of regulations, we believe. We have put this on the new minister's radar, and we have sent it as well previously to the Minister of Transport. And there needs to be coordination between those two departments in developing a better set of regulations, which would hopefully reduce the various shortcomings, provide a lot more clarity on who needs to be doing what and when. And I think if the system is better run, you're going to have less accidents. And then I think you also need better coordination between the various departments. It also goes beyond just Department of Education, Department of Transport. You've got to pull in the Department of Public Works. They need to build the bridges in the rural areas. When does it Transnet, and what are they doing? I know the most recent accident had a train was involved. So I do think that there are multiple role players, and there needs to be a broader conversation between them on how to improve scholar transport.
Yeah, and you make mention of the new Minister of Transport, Barbara Creasy, as well. She has only been in her role for a couple of weeks now. But just based off those couple of weeks so far and those engagements, are we getting a receptive approach?
So I have to admit, we have not engaged with the new Department of we haven't engaged with the new Minister of Transport. We have engaged yesterday with the new Minister of Basic Education, and she has made public comments, or comments in public that do suggest that she realizes that there is a big problem with transport, and it needs to be addressed. And so we're hopeful, cautiously optimistic that there may be a change in the way that the department is approaching this.
From a legal point of view, Cameron, what can parents do? One of the reports earlier, our reporter spoke to a mother whose child has passed in that accident as well. And they were alleging, some of the parents as well, that they've been fully aware that these scholar transport drivers are sometimes under the influence, and these are the allegations that they're putting. So they're kind of caught in between a rock and a hard place. Do you then refrain your child from going to school, keep them at home because you don't want them to be in a vehicle of somebody who's allegedly, inebriated? Or, do you then take the risk and let them go on? What legal avenues can they pursue, also considering that many of the times these are people who don't have money?
So I think after the fact, once the accident's happened, there's a whole civil claims against the driver, or potentially vicarious liability claims against the department if they didn't follow the correct procedures in vetting the drivers. So there's the after the fact, but I think you're suggesting, what do they do when they're in that terrible moment of they suspect that there's a problem, but they're not sure, and they still want their children to go to school? I mean, I think the sort of common sense approach would do not put your child in harm's way when it looks likely that they're going to be in harm's way. And then, notify the authorities as soon as possible that, there's a suggestion that someone is under the influence, and some quick steps need to be taken to stop them from driving. Tell the police, tell the traffic department, and tell the Department of Education so they can make alternative arrangements to try and get the children to school as soon as possible.
Well, thank you so much for that. Really appreciate your time this afternoon.